Hello and welcome to my Storm Legion Warrior leveling build video. Now, here I am sitting on top of Molo's Mystery Mountain Dimension, which you can feel free to visit if you like. And once again, rifthead.com, or zam.com as it was formerly known, is still all kinds of jacked up, so I'll be showing you this build in-game. But that brings up something you should be aware of if you are like me and you create your builds before trying them out in-game. Rifthead.com is only about 85% accurate, and where it is inaccurate, it tends to be very inaccurate. So make sure to actually double-check all talent descriptions in-game before taking them. But back to my warrior. For Storm Legion, Tryon gave us one new soul for each calling, and for the warrior, that soul was the Tempest. And everyone who loves to solo level alts rejoiced. Finally, the warrior has a legitimate solo leveling soul that combines plenty of damage and survivability. Now for this build, I'm taking Riftblade, Tempest, and Reaver. And right off the bat, I get 2 damage buffs in Stormblade and Enhanced Conductivity, and a damage over time in Soul Sickness, and my standard attack, Shock Pulse. For my first 3 levels, I'm taking Long Range Training, which will increase my damage, with my extra level 3 point going to Elemental Flux. Now this has opened Skyfall, a popular James Bond movie, which doubles as my primary finisher. At level 4, I'm taking another point in long-range training, which opens up my first multi-target attack, Offensive Blast. And now that I have a multi-target option, I'm switching over to Riftblade and finishing Elemental Flux. Now this puts me at level 7, and I now have a finisher that I'll disregard, and a nice defensive buff in Avatar of the Wind. All 3 of my level 8 and 9 points go into Elemental Empowerment, increasing my damage, and opening Flame Spear, an excellent damage over time ability. Now, in case you aren't aware, every power that I'm using at this point is ranged. Another factor that makes the Tempest Warrior more survivable than other warriors, but I will need to be aware of the fact that Flame Spear and Soul Sickness have a shorter range than my Tempest abilities. At any rate, at the moment, I'm just opening each fight with Soul Sickness and Flame Spear, and then using Shock Pulse to finish off the fight, along with Skyfall whenever I have 3 attack points. At level 10, I'm turning my attention to the Reaver tree, and putting my next 5 points into Planar Attunement, which increases the damage of my damage over time abilities. And now I've also opened up Dire Blow, a finisher which deals a little more damage than Skyfall, but it is only usable in melee range. And Crest of the Abyss, an armor buff. My level 14 point goes to Soul Feast, which causes my Soul Sickness ability, along with a couple of others that I'll get later, to heal me for some of their damage done. At level 15, I'm taking Binding of Affliction, a massive buff to my Reaver attacks, and putting my second point into Entropic Embrace, which also dramatically increases my Reaver attacks. Level 16 and 17 both go to Entropic Embrace, and my first level 18 point goes into Crest of the Shadow, an excellent absorption ability which adds to the survivability of the build. My second level 18 points goes into Tempered Constitution to increase my endurance, and this has opened up Blood Fever, a melee rage damage over time ability which also debuffs your foe. So at level 18, I'm opening fights with Soul Sickness, Flame Spear, Shock Pulse, and Skyfall. I'm using Blood Fever if my foe is in melee range, and finishing fights with Shock Pulse and either Skyfall or Dire Blow. And as you can see, this character is level 18, my foe was level 19, and I finished him off very quickly. My next 3 points are going to Tempered Constitution. Now, I don't really need the endurance right now, but I'm just getting this out of the way because when I hit level 50 and head to Paladin undergeared, the endurance will be crucial for me to survive. My second level 21 point is going into Dire Corruption, which is my most powerful finisher. This is a multi-target area of effect ability which will always be used against multiple foes. And in low-level fights, when you're only against one foe, yeah, I may stick with Skyfall or Dire Blow because I'm killing things so quickly with burst damage. But after level 50, when every fight takes a while, I'll be using this 100% of the time. I've also opened up Cyclone Strike, a multi-target attack that does more damage than Offensive Blast, but is on a 5-second cooldown. Now that I have Dire Corruption, I'm finally going to focus on the Tempest tree. I finish off long-range training and put 3 points into Difficult Target, which increases both damage and defense. This has opened Empower, a damage buff to all ranged attacks. Now I put 2 points into Enhanced Power, increasing my damage further, and at level 27 I can take Jolt, a heal over time ability. My next 4 points go into Bioelectric Enhancement, which increases strength. 3 points go into Oscillation, which will only increase my damage once I get the Charged Pulse ability. Now, it's actually rather stupid of this design that Oscillation is on the tree long before it does any good, but I do need the points now, and I need them in Oscillation later, so it is what it is. My level 33 points go to finish up Bioelectric Enhancement, and I take Ionized Discharge, which allows my multi-target abilities to hit 4 instead of 3. For a solo build, I won't need any more Ionized Discharge because if I'm fighting more than 4, I'm probably going to die anyway. So, I should note at this point that I'm actually skipping a lot of nice utility abilities in the Tempest tree, like Distracting Pulse. Now, you may want to look through some of these to see if you'd like to take away a few points from the 5-point abilities in order to take these special circumstance type abilities, but I chose not to take them in order to enhance my damage and survivability as much as possible. At level 34, I'm taking Storm Shield, another excellent absorption ability. Level 35 and my first level 36 are going to Magnified Charge, which increases healing from Jolt, and my second level 36 point goes to Enhanced Power. At this point, I need to stop and take a look at all the stuff I've added in terms of abilities. I've just added Charged Pulse, which deals massive single target damage, plus adds the Oscillation buff. Charged Pulse has 2-second cast time and a 20-second cooldown, and should be used to open a fight. I've also got Electricity Blast, which does multi-target damage over time, Lightning Torrent, which does huge damage in a channel, and also adds 3 combo points, and although it can be interrupted, it does not suffer from pushback reductions. And Thunderous Kick, which does better damage than my base attack Shock Pulse, and also knocks back the foe. In long fights after level 50, Thunderous Kick is an excellent power to use before using a Charged Pulse during the fight, but prior to your level 50, your rotation should be Charged Pulse, Soul Sickness, Flame Spear, Dire Corruption, Thunderous Kick, and Lightning Torrent. At level 37, I'm taking another point in Enhanced Power, and my next 3 points go to Grounded, which deals extra damage while standing still. Now this has opened up the Finisher Arc, which I can use, but really don't need to until level 50. Level 40 goes to Delayed Blast, which you place and then use the temporary Delayed Blast Detonator ability to detonate. This is a good power against single targets and excellent against multiple targets, and does not put you into combat until you detonate it. At level 41, I take a point in Stormbringer, which massively increases the damage of Charged Pulse and Lightning Torrent, and both level 42 points go into Quick Recharge, which reduces the cooldown of Charged Pulse. Yet another talent that I don't need now, but will be very helpful after 50. I should note for the record that this build is very powerful, and you will not feel that you are shorting yourself in the 30s and 40s because of all these level 50 powers. This build will have you leveling very easily before you get to 50, and will have you ready to hit the ground running when you first enter Paladin or Cape Jewel. I should also note for the record that undergeared warriors die quickly and often in the expansion without the right build, so having a build that prepares you for the massive difficulty increase of the expansion will greatly benefit you in the long run. So with 2 points in Quick Recharge, I've also opened up Chain Pulse, a nice multi-target finisher. Now, even though I consider this a Tempest build because that is where most of my attacks are, I'm actually going to put my remaining 20 points into Reaver, which will give me a lot more bang for my buck. So at level 43, I'm going to finish Tempered Constitution and then finish Entropic Embrace with my next 2. 1 point goes to Reaping Touch, which increases damage and puts a debuff on the target, and at level 46, I can take Crest of Entropy, my final absorption ability. At level 46, I take Soul Devour, which doubles the healing from Soul Feast. And by level 50, I'll have put 3 points into Crippling Infestation, which causes Explosive Infestation to add a massive buff to your damage. Now, I won't actually get Explosive Infestation until level 52, so the idea here is to have it hitting at its maximum potential by the time I get it. Now, I've also opened up Plaguebringer, which causes Soul Sickness, Blood Fever, and Necrotic Wounds when I get it, to affect up to 7 additional enemies. I need to make sure I'm using this at the beginning of any fights with multiple targets. So at level 50, I'll have a ton of powers to juggle, and will have different rotations against ranged targets than I do against melee targets, and against multiple targets, pretty much everything is turned on its head. Now, since you can run right into melee range against long-range foes, and since you want to stick with one target at a time for the most part at level 50, I'll demonstrate just the melee single-target rotation on this video. Now, I open with Delayed Blast, followed by Charged Pulse, Detonate, Soul Sickness, Flame Spear, and my first finisher, Dire Corruption. My next three attacks are Blood Fever, Electricity Blast, and Thunderous Kick, followed by my second finisher, Arc. Now I can use Lightning Torrent, which gives me 3 more attack points and Dire Blow to finish. If my enemy still has a lot of life left, I can repeat my damage over time abilities, but if not, I can just finish the rotation with Shock Pulses and Dire Blow. Now, finishing off the build at levels 51 and 52, I'm taking Crippling Infestation, and I'll open up Infestation, which will go into my rotation right after I detonate Delayed Blast. And it will do massive damage since I spend the next several seconds applying damage over time effects. At level 53, I'll take Shadow of Dread, which I'll put into the rotation right after Infestation, and it applies Blood Fever and Necrotic Wounds for me. And at level 54, I finish Reaping Touch. Levels 55 through 57 go into Infectious, which doubles the damage of my Reaver damage over time abilities. Levels 58 and 59 go into Vile Affinity, which will increase the duration of my Dire Corruption. And at level 60, I can take Flesh Rot, another powerful damage over time, and I've opened Necrotic Wounds, an even more powerful damage over time ability, plus I've already opened Binding of Shadow, a buff which allows my Reaver range abilities to be cast from the same range as my Tempest abilities. And that's it for my warrior leveling build. Now, you can find a written version of this build in the free guides over at soulsearchersguide.com. Thank you very much for watching, and have a great day.